4 things I love about tubes: warmth, compression, drive, and the fact that they somehow enhance the tone of our bass guitar. So let's find out if the R1 bass ticks all the boxes. Welcome back to The Wetterbass. Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed, as this will help us convince pedal builders to trust me for reviewing their creations just for you. In other words, the more we are, the more diverse and exclusive content I will be able to demo in this channel. Right, with this out of the way, let's go back to this R1 bass, which is basically a bass preamp that uses a 12AT7 or an ECC81 Telefunken tube. Knobs are labeled gain, level, and tone. You have an input and an output, and it runs on 18 volts. As simple as that. The pedal feels solid, aesthetically sober, and with a touch of class, thanks to the blue LED that's hidden under the tube. You can also protect the tube with this metal sleeve that you just slide on top of the tube, and that protects the tube for transport, or if you play live and you got big boots. At the end of the video, you will be able to listen to the pedal by itself, but I will first stack it with an Ibanez tube screamer and with an Electro Harmonix Bass Big Muff nano, and then by itself. Promise. But for now, let's listen to another song and another setting. So in the first song, the gain level was purposely exaggerated, and in this one we went for a milder one that is audible yet not as invasive. Like melting butter sizzling on a frying pan, lows remain intact with the settings, and there's a bit of extra warmth compared to the clean sound. Talking about clean, now let's go for a cleaner tone. Obviously, the more gain, the more compression, but also more distortion. With the gain lower, distortion is barely audible, yet you can still distinguish the compression that equals out the dynamics and enhances the overtones of the sound of the bass guitar. In the next song, I dialed down the passive tone of the bass guitar and dialed a fat saturated sound on the R1 bass, allowing for the distorted signal to make up for the lack of treble presence. Because the lows are quite predominant in this setting, I applied a low-cut filter at around 40 Hz, or a high-pass filter if you prefer. You might find this counterproductive as bass players, but remember that anything below 40 Hz is really sub-kick drum territory. And besides, you need a lot of power to push these lower frequencies that end up muddying your tone anyway. So more and more bass players are relying on a high-pass filter, either at the beginning of the signal chain or at the end of the signal chain. On the Becos Twain compressor that I use, there is a low-cut filter that only applies the dry signal. And this helps me control all the lowest frequencies and cut them out if I don't want them. But in this video, I completely forgot to set the side chain filter to neutral. I left it on low. That means that the lowest dry frequencies are left uncompressed. And that's why I had to cut the lowest frequencies afterwards in post-productions in 2 of the songs. Still, the sound of the R1 bass is deep and juicy and exactly what you would expect from a good quality bass tube preamp. So now let's try a tone with more definition, mids and highs. The sound of the bass is warm, yet it cuts through the mix and it's a touch aggressive. I'd say it's a fuller bass sound. And that's exactly my thoughts about this pedal. It makes your bass sound warmer and bigger. It's an always on, set and forget kind of pedal. An ideal partner for an insipid amp or for plugging directly into a mixing console for both studio and live situations. Which brings me to the next point. I think adding an extra output, an XLR DI balanced output, would be great. Actually, I would use it at the beginning of my signal chain as a DI box, basically. I shared this with Richard, the creator of this pedal, along with other minor observations that I would like to share with you. First, it would be great if there was a tad more volume from the level knob and a tiny bit of more clarity out of the tone knob. Also, because I had to use a high-pass filter, it would be fantastic if it could be included standard in the pedal, a switch or whatever. Last but not least, although aesthetically attractive, it would be great if the tube would be a little bit more protected. These minor critics are details compared to the main purpose of this effect, which is to warm up your sound using a tube. It's the kind of effect that is difficult to switch off once you use it. The small size of this pedal makes it ideal to carry around and it saves space on the pedal board. I will leave it out, but not before sharing the sound samples I talked to you at the beginning of this video. It's surprising how well this pedal sounds plugged directly into my digital audio workstation. For the sake of having always the same basic sound throughout this series of overdrive and preamp reviews, I always use the same signal chain, but I could have used this pedal on its own without the tube preamp that I use or the compressor or the cab sim. And this says a lot about this pedal. So before we listen to the last 3 sound samples, I would like to remind you to subscribe if you haven't done that already. Thanks so much for watching. I will catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.